half of the states in the United States, their name is derived from Native American words. Where do you get, Alabama, Mississippi? Where do these words come from? Kentucky, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Oklahoma. Oklahoma literally means the red people. The red people. So, let's change, right, the Indian, the Redskins, right? Well, the Redskins, change the Redskins. I feel like it is a stereotype, but that's, what else do you, the Native Americans as being, you want to memorize them as being beat up and war-torn and down on the ground, or strong and mighty warrior? So I feel like I don't know. As a white person, I'm not offended by it. I can see how someone could be offended by it, but Oklahoma, the whole state of Oklahoma is named the Red People. So if the Redskins is racist, then Oklahoma, the name of Oklahoma, is racist. And while we're talking about racist names, Native American names, Winnebago. Winnebago literally means the stinking people. Oh, yeah, those stinking people. Oh, those nasty, stinky people. Oh, yeah, those Winnebago people. So you drive those big, Winnebagos, right? The car, house things. They drive around on the campaign buses, right? They always have those campaign buses. The Winnebagos. That's what everybody calls them, Winnebagos, right? You're saying stinky people. You're fucking calling them the hoe chunks. A lot of times Native Americans would have a name for themselves, and then they would have, names that other people had put upon them. It was exonym versus their autonym. And their autonym was what they called themselves. That's the name that should, go on. If we're the proud ho-chunk people, well, that guy over there says you're a bunch of stinking people. So, I don't know. You a ho-chunk or you a stinky person? That's racist. Winnebago is racist. So every time you use Winnebago, you're fucking racist. So, yeah, want to go ahead and do that Redskin thing? Fine. If you want to do that, I guess it doesn't, there's no skin off my back. No skin off my teeth, right? Why would there be skin on people's teeth? Doesn't matter. You change that, make sure you go with the Winnebago, make sure you do with Oklahoma, okay? Because Oklahoma means the red people. Is that racist, or is that that's the red people, right? There's actually no red people or yellow people. There are blue people, right? The Fugates, Eastern Kentucky, all that inbreeding. But that's purebred, right? If you're white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you're purebred if you're inbred. And if you mix with the Irish and the Germans, ooh, those damned Irish and Germans. We need to burn them Irish and Germans down to the ground. That's how racist white people were. That'd be weird as fuck. There's an Irishman. I heard he's got some Irish heritage. How do you know, Luke? He's got some red hair. Kill that son of a bitch. Well, he's German. Red beard. Get him. That is not an American. You come to America, you speak American, they're taking our jobs. Fuck them Irish. Fuck them Germans. 1855, Know Nothing riots. They fucking killed Irish and Germans right before the election. It has nothing to do with anything, really. This is about the origin of the name of Kentucky. This is about the first book that came out and, first introduced Kentucky to the entire world, also introduced Daniel Boone. So where does the name Kentucky actually come from? Because names are important, right? So there's, they say, nobody knows. It's so uncertain. We don't know what it means. Personally, I think it's a Shawnee word for the Kentucky River, which was Shawnee River, or the Cumberland River was also the Shawnee River, and it was bloody, the bloody river. And then the land around the river, was Kentucky. So there's, some people say it's the Iroquois word, Kentucky, meaning meadowland. Wyandotte word, perhaps Cherokee or Iroquois, who knows. Kentate, meaning land of tomorrow. Right, those are nice. That's nice. That's dark and bloody ground. No, it's meadowland. The land of tomorrow. The future, right? The Algonquin term, Kin-athiki, referring to a river, bottom of Shawnee word meaning at the head of a river, or an Indian word meaning land of cane and turkeys. Lots of sugar cane, lots of turkeys. Still a lot of turkeys here today. The name does not mean dark and bloody ground in any language. If Wikipedia comes right out, this does not mean dark or bloody ground, which is nice. That's nice. If you continue on too, also when it comes to the origin of Kentucky, pioneers came here, white people came. There was no Native. It was a hunting ground, but no Native Americans were here. This is just part of the whitewashing of the origins of our state. There were Native Americans here. There were plenty of Native Americans. In fact, if we want to speak the language of this land, of this country, we would be speaking Algonquin. There's no bigger tribe than the Shawnee. The Shawnee was the biggest Native American tribe here in Kentucky. And what language did the Shawnee speak? We all know they're Algonquin speakers, right? Algonquin. You come to our land, you learn our fucking ways. This is America. You learn Algonquin. Press 1 for Algonquin, 2 for English. Or Cherokee. There's the Cherokee, Shawnee, Yuchi, Chickasaw, the 4 main tribes. I've seen that map that I was given as a child and as a college student too. The Yuchi spoke the Yuchi language, and Cherokee. It was the Iroquois language, but it was called Cherokee. So Iroquois language, Cherokee. There was, Algonquin, the language of the Shawnee, or Yuchi, or Chickasaw. Chickasaw spoke Chickasaw. So those are the 4 main languages. If you actually want to come here, I want to start off with this book here. Okay, so this is The Discovery, Settlement, and Present State of Kentucky by John Filson, the historic post-revolutionary description, including Daniel Boone's own memoir. Introduction by William H. Masterson for $1.25. We can buy it for $1.25. But this is big news. This is big news. Here, the Discovery, Settlement, and Present State of Kentucky. This is what the people would have seen when they first got this book. An essay towards the topography, natural history of that important country, to which is added an appendix containing the adventures of Colonel Daniel Boone, B-O-O-N. There's no E, right? So that's like the opposite of Dan Quayle. Daniel Boone? Oh, B-O-O-N. That's what his name is. No, it's an E, you dumb. English is so fucking weird. One of the first settlers, comprehending every important occurrence in the political history of that province, the minutes of the Piankeshaw Council, held at Port St. Vincent's, April 15th, 1784. The Piankeshaw were one of the original tribes here, account of the Indian nations inhabiting within the limits of the 13 United States, their manners and customs, and reflections on their origin. So the appendix in John Filson's book, he talks about the Native Americans, the stages and distances between Philadelphia and the falls of the Ohio, from Pittsburgh to Pensacola and several other places, the whole illustrated by a new and accurate map of Kentucky and the county adjoining, drawn from actual surveys. This is exciting. This is an exciting book to read today. $1.25. This should have been in the, excuse me. Should have been required reading for every Kentuckian. But Kentuckians don't know their history. They don't know their civics. They don't know how to treat each other. Everything that I was saying before, they don't brush their teeth. They don't wear shoes. They don't, they catch cancer. They just love cancer. They just, see a pool of cancer and they start swimming in it. They quit swimming in cancer. Let's stop swimming in pools of cancer. Pollution, toothlessness. Basically, think of any bad statistic, and all 50 states, we kick everyone's ass, except for Mississippi. Thank you, Mississippi. God, if it wasn't for you mother dumb, backwards ass, fucking pieces of shit. Whew. Anyways, okay, so let's begin. This is what, this is witness on our hands, 12th day of May. This is when Daniel Boone says, these are our actual accounts. Levi Todd, James Harrod, the founder of Harrodstown, the first settlement. Daniel Boone was the second colony, the fort that was built here, but Harrodstown was, there's still a Harrodsburg today. That was the first white colony established, first English white colony established here in Kentucky. The first English, and that's important because there was a French trading post in Skipakittiki, and perhaps other ones as well on the Ohio. So We, the subscribers, inhabitants of Kentucky, and well acquainted with the country from its first settlement, at the request of the author of this book and map, have carefully revised them and recommended them to the public as exceeding good performances, containing as accurate a description of our country as we think can possibly be given, much preferable to any in our knowledge extent, and think it would be of great utility to the public who witness our hands on this 12th day of May, Anno Domini 1784. May 12th, 1784, Daniel Boone, Levi Todd, James Harrod all signed this book saying that it was good. Right? So John Filson, he has a preface. I'm going to actually skip it. You should read it. And just read the first couple chapters of the book, of the fucking history, okay? So, the discovery, purchase, and settlement of Kentucky. The first white man we have certain accounts of who discovered this province was one James McBride, or MBride. There's no C, it's just McBride, James McBride, who in the company with some others in the year 1754, passing down the Ohio in canoes, landed at the mouth of the Kentucky River and there marked a tree with the first letters of his name and the date, which remain to this day. Is that still, is there a James McBride tree somewhere, on the Kentucky River? Kentucky River starts in Carrollton, in the north, right there, at the very tip, right? And then the Kentucky River, it goes up to the Ohio River, but it starts throughout all of Appalachia, everywhere in Appalachia. The Kentucky River, hits so many counties, and goes through Frankfort. Gatewood said we should put a dam on Frankfort, back up, that river in Appalachia that solves the water problems. 60% of, or 50% of a big, large fucking percentage of Appalachians do not have running water. If we would have listened to Gatewood, we'd have had a kick-ass fucking state. Okay, so, he says, James McBride, I actually wrote a Wikipedia page that showed 10 people who had actually been to Kentucky before James McBride. And I did that intentionally because, I was able to find 10 people before James McBride. So this was the first history. There's the Filson Society. They've all carried on what James Filson has first put down. James Filson, even though he says that it was a hunting ground, come on, Garden of Eden, wonderful place. He wound up being killed by a Shawnee Indian, even though he had said, I think it was Shawnee, but definitely killed by Native Americans. I could pull it up, actually. Killed by the Native Americans, who he said, wasn't even here. But let's carry on. Let's just read 2 pages of this, okay? These men reconnoitered the country, returned home with the pleasant news of the discovery of the best tract of land in North America and probably in the world. Best tract of land in the world. And the Native Americans stayed away. Fucking Garden of Eden, buffalo, right? Waters, creeks, trees. No Native Americans. They just, didn't want to fucking, let's just make it a hunting ground. Let's a hunting expedition. Every once in a while, on the weekends we go hunting. Give me a fucking break. From this period, they remained concealed till about the year 1767 when one John Finley and some others trading with the Indians fortunately traveled over the fertile region now called Kentucky, but known to the Indians by the name of the Dark and Bloody Ground, and sometimes the Middle Ground. So in Wikipedia, the history of Kentucky, when it says no Native Americans, has a word, Kentucky, that says Dark and Bloody Ground. Filson says otherwise. Kentucky's first historian says that the name is known to the Indians by the name of Dark and Bloody Ground, sometimes called the Middle Ground, which neither one of those was what Wikipedia said. This country greatly engaged Mr. Finley's attention. Mr. Finley was one of the last English people at Skippakitiki, the last Shawnee town in Kentucky, Clark County, Winchester, today. Sometime after disputes arising between the Indians and traders, he was obliged to decamp and return to his place of residence in North Carolina, where he communicated his discovery to Colonel Daniel Boone and a few more, conceiving it to be an interesting object, agreed in the year 1769 to undertake a journey in order to explore it. After a long fatiguing march over a mountainous wilderness in a westward direction, they at length arrived upon its borders, and from the top of an eminence, with joy and wonder, descried the beautiful landscape of Kentucky. Here they encamped, and some went to hunt provisions, which were readily procured, there being plenty of game, while Colonel Boone and John Finley made a tour through the country, which they found far exceeding their expectations, and returned to camp. inform their companions of their discoveries. But in spite of this promising beginning, this company, meeting with nothing but hardships and adversity, grew exceedingly disheartened and was plundered, dispersed, and killed by the Indians, except Colonel Boone, who continued an inhabitant of the wilderness until the year 1771. So Boone comes in with Filson. He says they all were killed. So I don't think Finley was fucking killed, but he said they were all plundered, dispersed, killed by the Indians. But Daniel Boone kept on hanging out for 2 more years, right? And then he went home. About this time, Kentucky had drawn the attention of several gentlemen. Dr. Walker of Virginia, with a number more, made a tour westward for discoveries. This is the Ohio Land Company, and there's 2 land companies, the Ohio Land Company and something else, land speculators. Even Colonel Washington, there was a Gist, Christopher Gist. He come over with, the Ohio Land Company, I think. That was the Ohio Land Company, and this one was Virginia? I don't know. There was definitely an Ohio Land Company. They came over. Christopher Gist was George Washington's right-hand man, came over here to survey and check out what this land had to offer. Washington wound up getting 5,000 acres, but he never even set foot. George Washington never set foot in Kentucky. So, that's interesting, right? So that's the beginning. That's what we would have read, right? The discovery, settlement, in the present state of Kentucky. If we were informed, if we were literate, if we were definitely pioneering, if we were going into Kentucky, the Europeans was, they was picking up and reading everything that we were printing, and it was, he talks about the Native Americans. Actually, let's see if we can scroll through the Native Americans, see what he has to say about that. It says the Indians, page 87. Of the Indians, we have an account of 28 different nations of Indians eastward of the Mississippi. East of the Mississippi, 28 different nations. The Cherokee Indians are nearest to Kentucky, living upon the Tennessee River near the mouth of Clinch, Holstein, Nolichucky, and French Broad Rivers, which form the Tennessee or Cherokee River in the interior parts of North Carolina, 200 miles from Kentucky. The Chickamaugas live about 90 miles down the Tennessee from the Cherokees at a place called There's the Chickamauga. The Chickamauga War, there was the Cherokees and the Chickamaugas had separated. There was 2 leaders that had separated. So Chickamaugas were the Cherokee. The Cherokee were here in the caves in Appalachia. So Chickamauga, Yuchi, Shawnee, right? My God, to say that it's not dark and bloody ground, there is, it actually was, the phrase came from dragon canoe. Richard Henderson, Daniel Boone was making the Transylvania purchase. They paid the Cherokee a bunch of money in order to take the big swath of the center, the heart of Kentucky. And as soon as Richard Henderson made a purchase and got the legal land claim from at least some of the Cherokee, because Dragon Canoe says, no, I'm not going to fucking sell it, fuck you, and you're going to have a hard time settling that dark and bloody ground. Those are his words. He said those words. So whether or not Kentucky, the name itself, means, I feel like Bloody River seems, to be right up the alley, but, I don't know. This Wikipedia says it's the land of tomorrow, the Meadowland, land of tomorrow, not dark and bloody ground. That's what Dragon Canoe said, And then the fact that they want to say it's just a happy hunting ground, it's just a happy hunting ground. On the weekends, right, every once in a while, in the middle of June on a weekend, they'd go hunting, catch 100 buffalo, leopard on their back, and just walk on back up to Detroit, because that's what Native Americans did. They could just walk on back to Detroit. Oh, we're in Detroit. What do you want to do? I don't know. Let's fucking walk 1,000 miles and go hunting, right? Why don't we just hunt right here? No. Let's go to the Garden of Eden. Why don't we just live there? No. We're just going to get a couple beavers. We're going to get some of the bison and maybe get, some copperheads to eat us up. So, bullshit. I call it bullshit on the happy hunting ground. The origin of the name, I don't know. It's definitely a Native American name, right? We can all agree on that. But it's saying it could be a Wyandotte word. It could be this word. It could be that word. So, I think by having that discussion of where the name comes from, and then the second discussion of where, who was here to begin with. John Filson, he was one of the founders of Cincinnati, and actually the founder, Cincinnati, who they named Cincinnati, is actually fascinating. He was killed by the Shawnee, October 1st, 1788. While on a survey expedition near the Great Miami River, he disappeared October 1st, 1788, when the party was attacked by hostile Shawnees and his body was never found. After his disappearance, his partners, Denman and Patterson, to Israel Ludlow, transferred his interest in the site of Cincinnati, and his heirs never reaped any benefit from the subsequent increase in the value of the land. He never married, and he left no direct descendants. So John Filson got fucked by the Shawnee, by the supposed happy hunting ground, right? Happy hunting ground. There's no here. He's going to, he's describing all these Native Americans, but he's essentially going to say that it's, none of the natives, they never come down here. I don't know what's up. They just never want to. You can read it, right? Fertile spot and properly denominated bloody grounds, right? Particular tribe, Henderson. I don't know. Read it. I mean, I think I would love to actually read this with any Kentuckian want to read this fucking book with me. Let's read it and let's learn together. So let's see. The Dragon Mona, a chief of the Cherokees with 60 more, broke off from the nation, formed the tribe. So Dragomona, Munau. So that's right. The language signifies a boiling pot. Chickamauga, boiling pot. Drago Munau, chief of the Cherokees. So that's what they did, right? You had the Cherokee and the Chickamaugas broke off the Cheegis. The Middle Settlement Indians are set about 50 and 80 miles south of the Cherokee. These four tribes speak one language, being descended from the Cherokees, the Chickasaws, and habit about 100 miles northwest from our settlement at French Lick on Cumberland River. Cumberland River used to be the Shawnee River. But we changed it to the Duke of Cumberland. Why? Oh, he killed all them fucking Scots, right? All them Scots-Irish. Fuck them Scots-Irish. Let's name our river after a fucking genocidal English, Anglo-Saxon, right? Germans. Anglo-Saxons were originally Germans. They're all Germans. All white people are fucking Germans. So, all white, all the English, all Americans. All Americans came from Germany, from a German tribe. You honkies, it's not England, you're Germans. The Choctaw Nation are 80 miles from the Chickasaws down the same river. Chickasaws, Choctaw, Cheegis. What the fuck is a Cheegee? The Creek Indians live 160 miles south of the Choctaws, which runs into the Gulf of Mexico. Yuchi Indians occupy 4 different places. At the head of St. John's, the Fork of St. Mary's, the head of Canuchi, and the head of St. Tilly's. These rivers rise on the borders of Georgia and run separately into the ocean. The Catawba Indians settled in North Carolina. Mingo, Wyandottes. Okay. So he's not talking about any of the Native Americans in Kentucky. He's just talking about all of them east of the Mississippi, right? So there could have been any of them. And, when it comes to, I found 28 tribes, okay? That's what this whole thing is about. I was going to try to play it off, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it. It was sort of, like dark and bloody ground, but where does this thing at? Sorry. If there are no Native Americans here, right? Oh yeah, the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, what else, right? The Mosapalia, the Wyandottes, Mingo, which are Seneca, Iroquois, the Chippewa, Delaware, Lenape is their autonym, Miami, Yamacraw, Tugunhas, El River, the Eel River Indians, the Haudenosaunee is what the Iroquois called themselves, the people of the Longhouse, Haudenosaunee, Kaskaskia, Kickapoo, Ottawa, Piankishaw, Potawatomi, Wea, Tutelo, Illinois, Lanapoto Creek, Muskego, Ojibwa, LaSalle. He said he saw some Han Easantakuronons, Outagamie, the Fox tribe, Iskosogos, the general Iroquois name for western Algonquins. So Iskosogos, Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi, Mosapalia, Wyandotte, Mingo, Chippewa, Delaware, Lenape. We gotta call them by their autonyms. It's not. There's no fuck the Delaware. Like it's the Lenape. That's who they are. Mingo, Chippewa, Lenape, Mosapalia, Yuchi, Miami, Yamacraw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Shawnee, Tugunhas, Eel River Indians, Haudenosaunee, Kaskaskia, Kickapoo, Kaskaskia Indians, Kickapoo Indians, Ottawa, Pianki Shaw Indians, Potawatomi Indians, Wea, W-E-A, the Wea Indians, Tutelo, T-U-T-E-L-O, Tutelo, Illinois Indians, Lanapoda Creek, Muskego Creek, Ojibwa, Santa Caronans, La Salle saw them, 1668. La Salle, the French explorer, one of the first people that was claimed the Mississippi Valley, Kentucky. A Frenchman was the first person to set foot in Boone County. Outagamie, the Fox tribe, and Iskosogos, a general Iroquois name for Western Algonquins. Blackhoof was born in Kentucky. Blackfish, he fought. I don't know if he was born here, but he was Shawnee, Native American, who adopted Daniel Boone. Called Daniel Boone Big Turtle. There was an Indian name which meant Big Turtle, but Blackfish had adopted Daniel Boone as his son. Puckshinwa, Tecumseh's daddy. Without Kentucky, there would not have been a Puckshinwa, and there wouldn't have been a Tecumseh. And there's some people that say that Tecumseh was born in Kentucky too, and possibly even his mother. But Puckshinwa, born here in Kentucky. Chief Plucky, Minot Teeth, a Mingo war chief, came down, attacked General George Roger Clark's men, and wound up getting killed. But I think he killed like one of the main guys at the forts. But this was the same time that Washington's crossing the Delaware. So whenever I think of Washington crossing the Delaware, right, in that pose, it's who the fuck, it's icy cold and shit. Who's standing up? It's like is Washington asking to get shot? I mean, and he's not rowing. What a lazy piece of shit. And he's just standing. He also would hang deserters, genocide the Iroquois. But that same time period, Christmas, 1776, right after the Declaration of Independence, was when you had Chief Plucky's raid into Kentucky. He was able to kill, 10 people or so, killed the leader of the fort, but then eventually he wound up getting shot. So, the same time. And I think that would be a hell of a movie. Washington going in Trenton, the Christmas Day raid, and at the same time seeing Chief Plucky. Because the eastern part of the Revolutionary War and the western part of the Revolutionary War are two different theaters. Very few British were over on the western side. You had, a lot of French, and the French and British had fought for a long time, but they're all Americans. Lexington was named after Concord in Lexington, and it was named right after the Revolution. So as soon as the Revolution hit, most Kentuckians probably were American revolutionaries, but being in the middle of the fucking woods, who knows? Daniel Boone got court-martialed for being British. And so, yeah, the Western Theater, it was murdering Indians. That's the fucking point of the Revolution. We've been imperialists. We've been stealing land from day one. We still imperialist empire, killing people that, in their own land, Iraqis, Palestinians, Afghanistan, Yemenis, anybody, right, that we don't fucking like. Usually brown, black-skinned people, very few white people. We've been doing that from day one. And so that's Chief Plucky, Minoti, Puckshinwa, Blackfish, Blackhoof. Blackhoof is Kentuckian, Puckshinwa, Kentuckian, and all the tribes that I had mentioned have origins, even though the Illinois Indians, that's what we call them today, and the name Illinois Indians came first before the state of Illinois. So Illinois Indians, could have been here. Kaskaskia, they definitely were here, but I don't know if this is their home, but there are some that claim that this is their home. Kickapoo, Ottawa, Lanapoda Creek, Ojibwa. I feel like if we're going to do, if you really want to honor the Native Americans, the Redskins, we would learn their culture. With Christopher Columbus, who are the three tribes that was on, San Salvador and Haiti? Who was the three tribes that he ran into? You had the Taino, you had the, God, I want to say Lanapoda, but I feel like, did I just see that? Yeah, I did. So it's not the Lanapoda. You had the Taino, you had the Arawaks, and then you had the one I always forget. But Taino and Arawaks. Most Americans don't know about the Taino Indians or the Arawaks, who were men and women and children who Christopher Columbus, brutalized, enslaved, raped, sold into sex slavery, and if they didn't do what he wanted, chop him into pieces for fun, for sport, feed him to the dogs. Who gives a fuck? And that's, that's just a